Coming up in episode 46.
If in real life we all understood that anyone can say anything about you, and just because 17 people got together and said, let's ruin this person's reputation online, and went online and did it, doesn't necessarily mean that it's the truth. If you go on and you look for somebody's name and all you're seeing is all this bad stuff, which I know how to do that. You know how to do that. Yeah. So where you could ruin someone's reputation, get the search engine optimization in such a way that is what comes up if you really, really wanted it to. And there doesn't have to be any fact behind it. As long as it comes up. Many people don't understand the difference between online and reality. Thank you for joining us for another episode of The Little Radio Show. This is Sandra Fernandez, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Juan Alanis and Angelica Casares, and we're bringing you small talk about big topics. This week we talk a little bit about the impending sale of LinkedIn to Microsoft, which is one giant to another, and about the fact that approximately 50% of all Americans surveyed said that they did not have the finances to deal with a small emergency like a car breaking down, and what this means and maybe our personal experiences with this. Just a reminder that you can catch us every week on Thursdays at 2 p.m. Central on hmsnetradio.org. Our show archives and the link to our iTunes and Stitcher channels are available at thelittlерadioshow.com. And today's, in case you missed it, I wanted to bring up the recent announcement of the sale of LinkedIn to Microsoft for something like, what is it, $26 billion?
$26.2 billion to be exact.
Good Lord, that is a lot of zeros.
A lot of difference.
That is a lot of zeros. And so LinkedIn, although a lot of people will tell you that they're not on it or whatever, it's a huge deal. It's one of the older social networks. It's been around longer than Twitter. Mm-hmm. You know, it's very highly used for people for professional purposes. One of the things that LinkedIn did recently is that they started this service where people can go on and get connected with people who are looking for freelancers. So while it's always been used as a way for recruiters to find people for jobs and for job seekers to find jobs, but what they recently did is they started testing out this new service where they're connecting people who do writing, social media, marketing, other stuff like that. The freelance economy with people who need their services. And right now, they're still doing that for free, where places like Upwork charge you.
Yeah.
So right after that, Microsoft comes in and makes the announcement, oh, well, we're buying LinkedIn for $26.2 billion. $26.2 billion. So here's my question to you two, into the audience out there. Are you on LinkedIn?
I am on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn.
I am gonna get a lot of flack for that because
there's a lot of people who are not. Almost everyone will tell you, yes, I'm on Facebook. Mm-hmm. A few people will tell you they're on Twitter. You'll get more people now tell you that they're on Instagram than Twitter.
Yeah.
LinkedIn is one of those things where, because it started out quite literally, it's like for business networking. So it's a more formal environment.
And I've heard great things about the referral, that it's very good, that it tells you, it's very intelligent, and it tells you, like, this person could introduce you to this many people at X company, and, that it has, like, very good, I guess, I don't want to say algorithm, but I guess it has very good...
How many people are on LinkedIn?
I don't know how many users are.
That's a really good question.
We'd have to look it up.
I'm curious. But the only reason I know about this was I seen a meme on it. I'm sorry, I call it meme. Juan gets mad at me. A meme on it that said, congratulations, LinkedIn. You made something money off of this many, off of all these people who are unemployed from LinkedIn. I thought that was funny. I thought it was hilarious. That's the only reason I actually heard about it.
Okay.
But I didn't know Microsoft had brought it out.
According to Google, there were 106 million active users in March of 2016.
So
106
million, not billion, So consider LinkedIn is a small network when you compare it to even when you compare it to like Snapchat and others, it's a small network. But the issue is who is on LinkedIn. Because earlier this year, I read a note that the LinkedIn blogging option that they have had just reached 1 million users, and it was a big deal. But you have to understand that 50% of the people who read blogs in using the LinkedIn service are management level and above.
Yeah, which is, I think, a LinkedIn profile is a big thing. And usually a lot of people who get it, they boast about it. I just got my profile on LinkedIn. I was like, yeah.
But it's great for connections.
It's scary.
Yes.
It's great for connections. And I think what makes it different, too, is that a lot of people are selective about who they allow to be their friends on LinkedIn.
I've heard that time and time again.
Yes.
And I take it very... I take it as a compliment when people tell me, add me on LinkedIn. That means they're introducing me to their quote unquote selection of people.
Network.
Yeah,
See,
to their network.
in LinkedIn, not only does it connect you to people, because it tells you if you're connected to someone as a first connection, second connection, or third connection. But it also, you can go through and you can search through your network, and I need to find someone who works for Microsoft, and it will tell you in your network how many degrees of separation there are between you and the person that you're trying to connect with. The other thing I am going to say is that LinkedIn, I'm incredibly selective on LinkedIn. I had some very bad experiences early on where I let people in that I didn't really know, and then they went out and they harassed the people that I was connected to. So I don't do that anymore. Just recently I had an experience where someone was asking me for an introduction to someone else, and usually my response is, if I really know both people in question, then I've got no problem with it. But the person that was asking me to introduce to the other person, I only know very nominally. And so I was honest about it. Like, listen, I don't know her very well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask her first if it's okay to do the introduction. And if she responds, then I'll do the introduction. So I never got a response and I didn't do the intro. I'm not going to put somebody that I barely know on the spot in a CC, introducing them to somebody else. I don't know if they're open to that introduction. And that, I think that's right.
I'll go even a step further, and I get a lot of flack for this, but I won't recommend you if I wouldn't be able to hire you.
Yes.
So I won't, if I can't vouch for you, I'm not going to recommend you. So.
But one of the things that I'm realizing, one of the reasons why LinkedIn put in that has not recommended you, but what's that thing where they say that you're good at this particular skill?
Where they endorse you for skills.
Is because people don't want to write out a recommendation.
Right.
But here's the problem that they're having now, is that you can have, because I've got hundreds upon hundreds of endorsements from people. And I always thank them for the endorsement, because now LinkedIn Mobile gives you that opportunity to thank people because they've endorsed you. But I have just a handful of recommendations. And so it's like, okay, that just looks a little weird. Now that they've got this new system where you can connect freelancers to people hiring them, they pull in the recommendations into that system. So if you only,
good.
But not your endorsements.
Not your endorsements. Well, that makes sense, because endorsements are so easy that a lot of people just do it like a tick for tack. Like, hey, you say I'm good at PR, I'm going to say you're good at outreach or whatever.
So talking about endorsements, I'm going to change the subject just very quickly. Did you guys hear about that app that you can rate people? It's like a Yelp app, but for people.
Is that actually up and running?
Well, yes, I believe it is. I don't know the exact name, and I was looking at it quickly because it was on the they were talking about it, and I of course through YouTube.
I've not heard about that, but
you haven't heard
interesting.
About that?
I heard that there was someone had suggested one, and there was a bunch of buzz about that. That was months and months ago. So I never heard more about it. I thought it just didn't come to fruition.
I believe it has. I believe it's out there. There's two versions of it. The first version, it allowed people to sort of give you bad rates, like if you were a personable person, if you were easy to approach, if you were easy to hold a conversation, and so on and so forth. But they were getting a lot of they were flack for it, and they didn't. So the two versions is one, the paid for, where you can give bad reviews, and the other one where you can read the reviews and you can give some like some ratings on it, but you can't do like the entire full version. So there's a paid version and then there's a free version.
But do you have to be a member to get rated, or can anybody just rate
actually,
you?
Yeah, you don't even have to have a profile. My understanding that they can create. There's something out there with.
I don't want to be on that system.
There's something out there with your name on it, and that is scary.
So this is going to be horrible for reputations with people doing, rating your person. Oh wow.
It's scary. I'm gonna be really honest. They were talking about this app because they were mentioning how now in the real world. Why can I not say words? In the actual factual world, social media is prevalent in our society, and people have harmed themselves due to a lot of what goes on. Yeah. But that lynch mob mentality is one person say something, and a lot of people kind of sort of let it play out on social media, and nobody says anything.
But here's the problem with that. Mm-hmm. If in real life we all understood that anyone can say anything about you, and just because 17 people got together and said, let's ruin this person's reputation online, and went online and did it, doesn't necessarily mean that it's the truth. If you go on and you look for somebody's name and all you're seeing is all this bad stuff, which I know how to do that. You know how to do that. Yeah. To where you could ruin someone's reputation, get the search engine optimization in such a way that is what comes up if you really, really wanted it to. And there doesn't have to be any fact behind it. As long as it comes up. Many people don't understand the difference between online and reality. And if 17 reviews come back and they all say that you're crappy, well, that must be true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And perception is everything. And
you know what I want? That maybe if that app does exist, I want that. I want a feature where you have to say it. You cannot type it.
You know what I want?
You have to do it on video.
You have to do it on video.
No, I want for it to be to where you have to actually use your real name.
That's not going to happen.
No, all I am saying is that I honestly believe that if I could go back and track down who you really are, you may not be as likely to go out and say falsehoods about people. There will still be people doing it, but maybe you won't be as
bold about it.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm okay with people being bold. But let me see your face as you're being bold. I want you because it's how do we get to this from frustrating thought?
We got to this from LinkedIn because Angelica went on to the reputation and recommendations.
So we're gonna go back.
No. That's this week's in case you missed it. If you're just tuning in, this is the Little Radio Show on hmsnetradio.org. Do you have enough money saved up that you could handle a small emergency? And by that, I mean $500 worth of medical bills because you got an upper respiratory infection. You had to buy all the medications and go to the doctors twice. Or your car broke down and maybe it was $900 to get it fixed. And you had to rent a car for one day, so another $100, $1,000. Something quote-unquote small like that. The Federal Reserve recently did a survey where they wanted to find out how Americans are faring with their money. And what they found out was that about 50% of respondents came back and said that if they had a small emergency of maybe up to like $1,000, they would either have to sell something or not pay bills or do something drastic like that in order to be able to pay for it. Now, I remember, because that was me once upon a time. Not maybe about 15 years ago still. That was still me where I had a really, all things considered, I had a very good job, but I was mismanaging my money. That's not why everyone lives paycheck to paycheck. But that was why I was living paycheck to paycheck, was that I was mismanaging my money and I didn't actually have any money set aside for emergency. And one time my car broke down and I had to pay bills late in order to get my car out of the garage. And that was the wake-up call for me. And I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous. I'm at that point, I'm in my late 20s. I have a really good job. You know, I'm in charge of, I have so many people who depend on me. I'm going to just get my crap together. But especially as we see surveys about how, in particular, Hispanics don't accumulate wealth at the same level as other segments of the community because we don't understand money, is what the surveys came back. So here's my thing. How many people do you two know that actually live paycheck to paycheck? Because I know people who still live like that.
Who still live paycheck to paycheck?
Who like...
They're younger. The people that I think we know that live paycheck to paycheck are younger. And it's basically because they are paying... they're in debt for good reasons, you know.
Okay.
For good reasons, and they're just simply going to have to, you know, it's going to be a couple of years before they can actually save some money. I mean, saving money... Then, and this is something that everybody should learn, you at least put aside $1,000 just in case. At least $1,000 just in case. But paycheck to paycheck, yes, it's something that it's not exactly a priority to put money to the side.
Well, it's not that, it's that there's no money to put aside.
Exactly.
Now, if you, for example, I make $15 an hour, and I don't make $50 an hour, but like I make $15 an hour, and there's a lot of people out there who do, and they're working full time. That's about $30,000 a year.
Not only that, there's a lot of people that are making minimum wage.
Yes.
Which is a lot less than.
What is minimum wage now?
It's like $7.50.
Okay,
$7.50 an hour.
There's
so
no
imagine
way.
living $7.50 an hour.
No way. Even with overtime, there's no way you can make that. You can make a living off of that.
What do they call that? The working poor. It's like, you know, you're people who have 1 and 2 jobs, married couples. Between the two of them, they have like 3 full-time jobs, and they're barely bringing in maybe $35,000-$40,000 between the two of them.
Considering, you're right. Considering, say you're the prime of the family, and even at $18-$19 an hour, you're still living paycheck to paycheck.
Yes.
Your mortgage, your car, now the insurance. It's just wow, and I didn't understand that. Well into my 30s, actually. Well, no, not well into my 30s. Actually, probably right around my 30s, between 28 and 32. It took me a little bit to understand that, but
you see that you were right about the Hispanics. I think Hispanics traditionally don't use banks as much, traditional banks, as much as other populations, especially when you look at the people who are recent arrivals to the country, and that's why predatory lenders prey in Hispanic communities a lot of times, because they can charge. You know, so you can use you hear the commercial all the time. Use your car as your car title to get a loan, or use this to get a loan, or you just need a paycheck to get a loan. And sure, I mean, it's helpful because you get, you know, $500 off the back, or you get $100 up to $1,000, $2,000 that you can get immediately. It's cash in your hand.
What was that reason?
But the interest rates though are high. I mean, they're like 300% or more. So
yeah.
I mean,
there was that one guy.
But how can you pay that back when you're working off a minimum wage or a little bit more, and then you're having it's like a vicious cycle. You're constantly.
I'm trying to tell you a story that I was trying to pay off $1,000 loan and ended up paying $50,000 in just the interest, and it took him years to pay. That is outrageous. How is that okay?
Because it's not regulated.
How is that okay?
It's not as regulated as it should be.
But people do get it a lot. You know, when you offer services like that and they say use your paycheck or use your car, everybody at least has a car, and you just have to own your car, like have a car note. I don't even think it matters if it's a really well car, as long as I think running.
Any car really will do. But say if you borrow $1,000 to fix your car, you fix it, and then 3 months later you're back in the same thing where your car breaks down again, or you have another emergency. You can't ever catch your break because you're constantly trying to catch up.
Well, and then we live very much in a society of the keeping up with the Joneses. I want the newest.
Right.
I want the best. My friends have. Oh, well, you know, I haven't gone out to eat all week, so I should treat myself. Oh, you know, there's that new movie out. I really want to go out and watch it in the 3D. Or I want to go out and see it in the place that they serve the dinner there, and there goes $40.
You say that, Sandra, and it's been a long time since I felt like that.
But most people...
But I see what you're saying.
In the U.S., we're a consumer economy in the U.S.
Yeah, the mentality is...
And my life will be better if I have. I'll be happier if I buy.
If I can just.
Yes, if I can just get this. I'm saving so that I can buy a new phone. And I'm like, okay, sweetie, but you're $7,000 in debt.
So I saw...
Pay off your credit cards.
I saw a meme, not a meme, the other day. And it
Stop it.
Stop
it.
And it said something, don't be the woman that walks into the room with a $300 bag and $10 in her purse. Be the woman that walks in with a $10 bag and $290 in her purse.
I'll walk in wherever I want to with that.
But that's actually correct. So 15 years ago, I had this experience, okay? And then I'm like, okay, that's it. That was my wake-up call. And I am lucky enough that for me, it wasn't a salary issue.
Right.
For me, it was just...
a shift.
Yes, it was a shift in how I did things. And so I went through and I read some books and I figured out what I needed to do. And then one of the first things I did was I cut up all my credit cards and I started living on cash. And that meant that if I couldn't pay cash for it, I didn't buy it. And that was a really hard thing because I had accustomed myself to the thought that, I'll just pay it off later. And so living to where what you have is all that you can spend actually takes a really huge shift, or at least it did for me.
Yeah, because I think that like you said, like even if you're first generation and you still have kind of the cultural traditions of another culture, you still kind of fall into the mentality of like, oh, that's nice to have. You know, I want
and you
to
fall
have
there very quickly.
Like I want to have that nice new shiny car that I don't really need, but I want it. Or I want the latest phone, or I want
a new purse.
I want a new laptop. I want a new computer. I want new shoes. I want new. So you kind of fall into that. Like it's easy to spend the money because
I think you it's not that you can't have it. It's
decisions. It's a choice that you make.
Yeah. Well, even on your way to, it's not like you have to stop. That was very bold of you. That was very brave of you to go complete cold turkey type of thing. But not everybody can do that. But not everybody can do that. Like I can't. Like some people need a patch to stop smoking. I went cold turkey when I stopped smoking. But some people there's a process, and as long as you start understanding that maybe you can. But right now, what is more important? Now, what is more important? Some people do that shift can change little by little, little by. And I think that's the only thing that.
But the second thing that I did is I took a little notebook and I wrote down every penny that I spent for 2 months. And I am talking at 50 cents at the vending machine.
I did that too.
I am talking every movie rental, every eating out. And at the end of the month, for those 2 months, I figured out where I was spending money. And it just floored me how much money I was spending in things that, quite honestly, I sort of had an idea, but I really didn't understand the scope of where my spending went. And so that helped me identify how to create a budget. And that was the next thing is I had to create a budget.
For yourself?
For myself.
But you're right. The little things do add up because sometimes even if it's something as simple as like, hey, I'm going to drive down the tollway today. Yes. And you're like, you pass 3 or 4 tolls and it's like, okay, that was what, like $4 or $5? Yeah. And you're like, and then you would drive it on the way back and it's like, okay, that was just $10 to drive back and forth. And
you make
so you kind of start calculating and you're like, okay, this is where my money's going.
There's a sense of, am I in a hurry to get on the tollway or not? And that's the way we get on tollways. It's like, do we need to be there now? And if it's like 2:00 in the morning and we're tired, it's like, get on the tollway. We got to get home because we don't want to drag this on.
So there's a book that I had read, and I don't remember what it's called. And if I do remember, I'll put it in the show notes. And the guy was explaining to this 20-something about how she was like, I don't have money to save. But she bought a Starbucks every day. And he was explaining to her how those $4 a day over a 10 to 20 year period actually added up to significant money. And she's sitting there and she goes, are you telling me that like in 40 years I could retire off my not buying a Starbucks every day? And the guy's like, yeah, because she was in her 20s and the money would accumulate. But that's the kind of thing that those little luxuries, we all say, I don't have money to spend.
But we've all been there too when we're young, and where we're like, I mean, I remember when I was younger and I was going to the clubs and I was like spending a lot of money at the,
those eat up your paycheck.
A lot of money, like going out to dinner, going out to movies, going out to the clubs.
Because a Saturday was a Saturday.
And, it was just like, it was a lot of money that I just left there that, in hindsight, I'm like, man, I spent a lot. But
because you can on a simple Saturday to go to like a club, you can drop a quick $300-400.
Yeah.
And for somebody who's making a little bit over minimum wage, that's a lot.
Yes.
But what's interesting to me though is that like the new generation, like the younger generation, the millennial generation, that so much is said about them, that they view like their work-life balance is more important than income.
Yes.
So, I mean, how does that contribute to the whole notion of not being able to save? Because
work-life balance would be loads more important to me if I didn't have to pay things like electricity and mortgage.
Yeah, yeah.
But so going back to the stuff that I did is, the first thing I did was stop spending tomorrow's money today. Like, stop. No more credit cards.
I like that.
No more things on credit. Like, if I did not have the money today, I couldn't spend it today.
Yeah.
The second thing I did was try and figure out where I was spending my money. And the fourth thing I did was create a budget. So I've created a budget. It was really hard for me to stick on it. So what I actually did was I gave myself an allowance for spending money. I create, and it's sort of like an envelope system. People put envelopes. That doesn't work for me. So what I did is I gave myself an allowance for my spending money, and that was like groceries and gas and stuff like that. I actually opened a second account, and on a weekly basis, the money would get deposited automatically from my bill account, as I call it, to my spending account. And once I ran out of money, I just ran out of money, and that was it. And, you were brown bagging it for the rest of the week. So after a while, but it took me years to get my stuff under control, to where, like, just recently I had the experience where my car was in the mechanics for repairs, and I knew it wasn't going to be a problem. I mean, I'm self-employed now, and I knew it wasn't going to be a problem, that I could just pay for the repairs without having to borrow money or, not pay my bills or anything like that.
I think one of the first things that I understood is that what I understood is very simple. Is you do not hold back on getting the insurances that you need. Insurance, health insurance, life insurance, car insurance, extended warranties. Get your insurance and get those things in place, because those are going to be the things that save you.
Now, I understand, and there's going to be people in the audience going, "Oh my God, extended warranties are a jet." Absolutely. If you can actually save the $1,500 instead of paying them in an extended warranty, to where if you never need it, it's in somewhere where the money is earning you interest, then that is great. But if you don't think that you're going to be able to,
the capability,
yes,
of saving, putting that money aside and having it sit somewhere, then yes, definitely. But that is one of the things that that's the first thing that I think about is insurance. Even on your phones, get the insurance. Pay those extra $15-20 on your phones. If that phone was important enough to spend $600-700 on, get the insurance. It's worth it.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's topic. As happens frequently, we have too much to say and not enough time. For those of you interested in hearing the rest of this conversation, please check out our digital extras at thelittleradioshow.com. If you're already subscribing to the show as a podcast, you'll automatically receive the digital extras in your podcatcher. Well, we're running out of time. I just want to put out there for our audience, if we push some buttons, please let us know. But if you have a personal experience of having turned things around, we would love to hear about it. Or if you're still in the situation where you are actually living paycheck to paycheck, you think I'm full of hot air, we'll take
we
that
do want to
one
know.
too.
We do want to know.
We'll take that one too. But in the meantime, I do encourage all of you out there to maybe take a step back and see even if you don't think that you need to, there's usually always places where you can put more money aside, maybe invest more in insurance, put money aside for a down payment for a house, maybe buy your next car for cash. I mean, there's always an opportunity for that. And that's me getting off my soapbox now. Thank you for joining us for another episode of The Little Radio Show. We invite you to check out our iTunes and our Stitcher channels and leave us a rating or a review. You can find the link to both channels at thelittleradioshow.com.